Hi everyone. So welcome to the day 2 of SQL learning challenge. So today we are going to cover data definition language or DDL statements. So we'll primarily covering create, alter, drop. So create is to create an object, alter is to make changes in an object, drop is to delete or delete the object. So, before we deep dive into the DDL statement, right, let us see what we have covered yesterday. So, we had a session which talks about what is SMS, what you are seeing on the screen is SSMS, and how to create a database. Yesterday, we created this demo database. So, all these objects would be creating under the demo DB today. And we also talked about system databases, master model, mstb, temtb, all these things and use cases. So now moving on to the day 2. So we'll start creating a object. So we have understood that we have server and we will have databases under server, and all the data would be stored in the format of table. And in order to store the data, we need a table definition, or we need a table to store the data. So before we go into querying, I will use this new table creation screen, the design window, to help you out to understand what are the components required to create a table, right? So I'm going to create a table which is having an ID column. So when you create a table, right, so you have to have columns, and in column we need to provide a data type. So every column is like store homogeneous data. That means like same data type values would be stored. So I believe like a ID is an integer column which is going to store, like the ID is a column which is going to store numbers. So we'll have integer. And there's another question called allow nulls. So that's say like when you add a record to this table, right, in this particular row, like when you add rows, do we need to have do we need to allow nulls in this ID column or not? I'm saying no, because I want to make sure that all there should be a value always in the ID column. Then I'm calling next one as name. So you know that name is a string value where everyone's name would be captured. So in order to like refer string, we have a data type called varchar, and there in varchar int we don't need to specify a length or anything, but in case of varchar we need to mention the space. So then I would also say like date of birth. So date of birth, we need date, right? Like you just wanted to know when this person has born. So this covers the pretty much. So then we can say let that be null. If somebody don't wanted to share their date of birth, we are open to let that column allowed as null. So we also have other properties around this, like each column we can set primary key. So like what is primary key? So primary key is a column which represent to identify each row uniquely. So we'll be talking about a separate session which will talk about constraints, keys and everything. So allow null is a constraint which you are saying allow null or not. So that means like you can define the null is allowed or not, right? That can be called as a constraint. And we also have something called check constraint. Suppose you have an age column, and you always know that age is maybe probably around like 120, right, between 0 to 120. So you can set a constraint like check constraint that say that like, a number should be between this number, so that like if somebody is trying to add a number like 500 in your age column, that doesn't allow. Or maybe in date of birth, you are expecting only people who are alive, right? You know what should be the date which should be greater than this, things like that, right? We would be able to play around with check constraint. So now in the design we know. So once you enter the columns which you required, like you need to click on save. So in this save you need to mention the table name. So I can say that customer customer info. I'm just naming it as so when you create this table, right, let's see what happens. So now we can close this, we can go into tables. So if there is nothing is reflect, you can right click and refresh. So now you have this customer info, right? So you can also see something added before that, that is dbo.customer info. So something we haven't covered so far is called schemas in SQL Server. So schemas are a subset of databases. Like inside databases, before we come to objects, like when I call object, table, view, stored procedure, all these things, we have something called schema. So every object you created would be created under a schema. So that means like the one purpose of schema, I can say, like you wanted to segregate your type of objects, right? Like, okay, all my customer info should be on customer schema, then all my maybe what do we say, like bank employee information or anything, right? Or maybe if you're talking about a hospital, maybe you want the patient info in one category, and like sales related or like patient bill related information in a different schema. So that like schema will help you to segregate on a like functional perspective, and as well as on the security perspective you will be able to keep it, and you will also be able to control the access privileges based on schemas as well. So by default, so we have in when we create, right, we did not mention which schema it should belongs to. So this went to DBO schema. That's the default schema. So now we have seen how to create a table using UI, right? So let us see how to create a table using the statement, right? SQL statement. So what is the DDL statement which we can use to create an object? That is create, right? And what you're going to create? I'm going to create table. So now you tell me what should be the name. So I'm just like for a standard of using, I'm saying that okay, my object should be in DBO, and I wanted to name it as like employee details. Okay, and next, so when we do that through design, so we have mentioned like table name, column name, data type, allow null, right? So these are the very basic things we did. So I'm saying like okay, I need ID, and I also mention integer, and allow null I can mention not null. So this is the third column, right? Then name, varchar of 50, sorry, varchar of 50, it's not null, and date of birth, date, null, right? Then you need to close the bracket. So your query is ready to create a table. Now I can go ahead and execute the query. So it executed successfully. Right click, refresh. You will see the same employee details table has been created. And if you wanted to see like okay, what are the columns it has, right? If you click on plus, you will be able to see columns. ID not null, name, varchar of 50 not null, date of birth. Same way, like if you go to this, you will see like ID, name, date of birth, right? So this is how you can create a table. So same way, right? If you are going to, we haven't talked about view, stored procedure, all these things, but keep this in mind. When you wanted to like create an object, the statement is going to be create, then object name, then rest of the syntax, like whatever it needs to be covered in it, right? So now you have learned like how to create a table in the database. So we are covering, like we have talked about create so far. Now we need to talk about alter and drop. So alter is like let us take this again, design window, right? Yeah, imagine that I wanted to add an additional column here, like what is this column? This is customer, right? age is not going to work because I'll just maybe for easiness we'll keep it age. So age, what data type do you give, right? So we generally use it int, but talking about data type, we have certain scenarios like why data types are created, right? If you click here in the drop down, you can see so many data types. Let us take int, right? So you have integer, then you have small int. You can also see tiny int. Then you can see big int, right? All these are integer data type, right? And you have carries against string. So when do we use the right data type, right? So when we learn designing, you also should learn data type. So on the next session, I'm purely going to talk about data types because on a very high level you have to understand, like we have int data type, varchar data type, float data type, date data type, date for date, integer for numbers, and float for precision, and we have money. All these things, like when you scroll down, like we have also var binary to string images and things like that. We have n varchar to so again time, right? So we'll be talking about all these things and when you have to use it, right? When you are going to talk about a real time example, you should understand like why each data type is built and what is the purpose of it. So that's a slightly vast topic, I don't want to cover it today. So now yeah, back to the topic. Age, I'm giving small int. I'll tell you the reason in tomorrow's class why did I give small int. And I say, okay, let it be allowing, right? So now what we did is like we haven't created a new table, right? We made a changes to the table. All we did is like we have added a new column to the table. So this can be called as a change on the table, right? Because you haven't created an object, so you made a change. So that making the change can be called as alter, right? So that is where the alter coming into picture. So alter table was a table name. So I think we already did for customer, right? And employee details is our query table. And I don't want this code to be executed, right? What happens if I run this code again? So I'll comment this and I'm going to run this code again. So this there is an object already named employee details exist here, right? So because this table already exists, you cannot keep creating a table. Maybe some of you might be guessing, okay, why can't we give a comma and call age here, right? Age here int, right? And null, right? No, because create is for creating an object, not making changes to the object. So you no longer will be able to make a changes like that. So now we don't want this code to be executed again. So if it is a line you wanted to comment, you can use this double hyphen. So if you wanted to comment an area of code, right? Slash star and forward slash. So this will let you to comment an area of code, whatever starts from here to here would be commented and it no longer execute. So now I wanted to alter the table. So I wanted to add, right? I wanted to add a column, correct? So what's my column name? My column name is int. My column name is age, and I don't want to give int because that is a misleading thing. So I'm giving small int, and I'm saying okay, you can add null, and I can either click on execute because I don't have any command. And if I wanted to specifically execute this piece of command, I can select this and run. So this will execute. Now let us go back and see if these columns are added. No, right? So let's right click, refresh the column because I don't want to refresh everything. So now you can see an age column added that is based on this piece of command which you executed, right? Now let us come to the last topic of today, which is drop, right? So now for dropping, all you have to do in case of customer, will you right click, you have a delete statement, right? and you can click on OK. It is in progress, right? Because why delete statement is taking a little while, because they wanted to see like is there any other objectives depend upon this, or if somebody is already making any changes on this table, right? All these things has to be checked before making the delete statement, delete query by SQL. So let it run. Unfortunately, this is more taking more time than I expected. So meanwhile, let's take a query window. So I'm commenting, I don't want this to code to be running, right? So this is the same case, right? Like if you try to alter the column again, column name cannot be, like you cannot have two age column in a same table, right? You can have maybe this age column in the customer info, which we already did, but you cannot have another age column because you already added, right? So yeah, so now I wanted to drop. What do you want to drop? You want to drop a table, right? So what is the name of the table? So this is my name of the table, and all I need to do, drop table, execute. So this is executed. I think my command also may have, I don't know why this is taking time. Let us refresh it and see what is behind the scene, right? Slightly slow, but you can see the command has executed successfully. Now you all may have one question in your mind. Okay, I already have a GUI help me to like run the queries, create the objects. Then why do we need this SQL statements, right? Because that is, again, you need to learn. Right? You need to learn and understand. Yeah, it should have been dropped by now. The query is completed. Yeah, we can try once again. Yeah, the table is gone, right? So you might be thinking, why do we need query? Imagine, right, like you are like developing a web application, and in that web application you wanted to create a table or drop a table, or you wanted to make some changes on the table, right? You cannot make use of the benefit of UI. You still need queries, correct? So that is where one example which I want you guys to relate. Queries are important, and queries are more flexible too. Like when you keep learning more and more about these statements and how this can be leveraged, right? You would understand how flexible SQL is, and how easy it is. Now you can see these are like your normal English, right? Like create table, because I'm telling like, okay, I want a table to be created. This is my name of the table, and this is the column. So that's why generally SQL is being called as one of the uh, easiest programming language, at least from my perspective. So now you know like how to create a table, alter a table, drop a table, and you also have a very high level idea about data types, int, small int, varchar, and all. So will be next session is going to be data types, and keys and constraints is something which I said would be covering today, but I know like this already taken around 18 minutes of this video. I don't want you to spend even more time here and overwhelmed with the information. So I'm cutting that down. Keys and constraints would become covered later with the different topics altogether. So that's all for today. And when you go, I would recommend all of you to go and practice, create, alter, drop, and inside alter you still have other options, like suppose you wanted to make changes on a column, right? How do you do that? Or you wanted to like add a constraint or things like that, right? I want you guys to think through and comment like if you find something helpful, or how you would be able to do that. So practice would help you to do these things better. So that's why I want you to see how these queries are working in real time. So that's all for today. So tomorrow we'll be talking more about data types and other items in topic. Thank you.